let's get to the final recap of spring practice, the biggest winners and losers of spring camp. I don't know that there's necessarily a loser, so to speak, other than maybe I'm nitpicking. I would say Brew McCoy. I think it was an opportunity for him to go out there and do more things. We're suddenly talking about a receiver, Caleb, that was considered a malcontent because he transferred 1, 2, 3 times, and has come into this season and has been limited in spring camp. He was limited in preseason camp last year because you didn't know if the NCAA was going to allow him to be eligible. Suddenly, you're talking about a guy who's missed an awful lot of practice time, Caleb. We don't know exactly how much he may have missed in regular spring camp, but I wonder if Brew McCoy is going to be up and ready to go as a number one wide receiver in the fall. He had better be, because Tennessee might get great contributions from the slot position as they have and over the past couple of years, and they could do so again. But they need a guy that's at the very least a Ramel Keaton level last year that can keep people honest and not double down on the slot.
Yeah, I'm not as worried with Brew McCoy. I actually disagree to it. I think McCoy was held out because of what happened with Cedric Tillman last year. And I don't think there's much of a learning curve at playing wide out in Heupel's system. I think it's pretty easy to pick up. And so I think there's no reason. I think the most important thing for your receivers, your wideouts specifically, is to keep them in shape. I think in the slot, you may have worked some guys this year because you didn't know who was going to be your slot guy, but you know that McCoy and Ramel Keaton are going to be your wideouts. I do think a wide receiver was the loser of this spring camp, but I don't think it was McCoy. I think it was Dante Thornton. And I think it was Dante Thornton because I think Squirrel White did not let go of that number one slot spot. And so I think that, look, I'm eating crow on that. I was so high on Dante Thornton coming to Tennessee. And I don't think, and what I had heard is that it wasn't so much of what he didn't do. It's that Squirrel White really never let go of the spot, that he was that good. So if there was a loser to me, it would be Dante Thornton. I think another loser, and these are based on who the winners were from spring camp, I would say Jalen Wright was a loser from spring practice, only because of what Dylan Sampson did.
Why wouldn't you say Jabari Small instead of Jalen Wright?
Because the Jalen Wright is the all-purpose back, and Dylan Sampson is an all-purpose back. They're not the 20, 25-yard they're not the 20 to 25 carries per game back. They're not the guy you go to when it's 3rd and 1 and you need a yard and everybody knows you're going to run the ball. Jabari Small is that guy. And Jabari Small is still going to be the feature back for Tennessee because he can be the workhorse back. So I think Dylan Sampson takes more carries away from Jalen Wright, not Jabari Small.
I tend to agree. Do you want to hear something that sounds crazy?
I'm ready.
Okay. How big's Dylan Sampson? Why don't you look him up real quick? And it would pull up Tennessee's roster. And how big Jabari Small and Jalen Wright? Because they're not huge dudes by any stretch of the imagination. But when we look at Dylan Sampson, we think much, much smaller. So when you have those heights and weights pulled up, let me get to that. And we're going to get to why Mr. Jones says Squirrel is already a star going into the season, in my opinion. I agree. That's why I was going to nitpick on this guy's column here in a second, and we'll get to Tennessee's recruiting prowess as they pick up a commitment over the weekend. But no, I agree. I think Squirrel is almost bona fide to this point, and but so I wouldn't have him on that list. The guy I would have on the list would be Dylan Sampson, who's listed as how big?
Dylan Sampson is 5'11", 190. Jabari Small is 5'11", 213. Jalen Wright is 5'11", 205.
Okay. Do me a favor. I'm going to go way back in time. The Florida State running back, and he later went on Ward. What's his name? Ward. What was his first name?
Well, I'm thinking, I know Charlie Ward, the quarterback. I don't know the running back.
No, the running back who went on to play for the Bucks along with Allstott.
Warwick Dunn?
Warwick Dunn. Okay. How big was Warwick Dunn?
Warwick Dunn was 5'9". I'm trying to look at his size. Wow. 5'9", 187? I thought Warwick Dunn was bigger than that.
Okay. So I'm just going to throw something out there that was said to me. All right. And this is insight that you don't get anywhere else, Tennessee fans. But this is something that was said to me. What if because Joe Milton is better at going over the middle, that it opens up some stuff on the flats, which really was very rarely open because Tennessee would attack that safety, and then the slot receiver would make you pay if you overplayed on the outside receiver. What if because of Joe Milton, they're throwing the ball over the middle a lot and the flats open up a little bit? And Dylan Sampson is not only your changeup back, this is just a what if, hasn't been decided. What if he's more of your go-to back because he can catch the ball out of the backfield? He can beat you horizontally, which is important to this offense, more so than when you had Hendon Hooker at quarterback. What if he's your main go-to guy? Is that outside the realm of possibility because of his size and skill set?
Then we're definitely getting an Alvin Kamara situation with Dylan
Yes.
Sampson. And because Josh Dobbs didn't have the deepest ball, they couldn't go deep with him that often. And he went over the middle a lot more. And because of that, the flats were wide open with Kamara. And now Butch Jones, for some reason, decided, I think we could use Jalen Hurd in the flat more. But when Alvin Kamara was the better back in the flats. But yes, you're getting it out. You will get an Alvin Kamara then this year. You'll have that type of season.
Tennessee with this group, and Joe Milton in particular, even if it's not Nico one day, but with this group, they're going to be fine getting the ball downfield. Do we agree on that? I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to hit 1 of 5, right? And if you hit 1 of 3, then you're the number 1 offense in the nation, like last year. So if you hit 1 and 5, you're going to keep them honest. I'm not saying they're just going to completely forget the deep ball at all. I just wondered if this offense might be a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage and might throw more things within, let's say, a 20-yard intermediate throw as opposed to downfield. I'm talking about little tweaks at the end of the year, Caleb. I'm not talking about major overhauls, so we're on the same page.
Here's what's going to happen with this offense. And this is what we've noticed in the Clemson game. And I think a lot of people are forgetting this about the Clemson game. It wasn't the same type of offense, not just from the over-the-middle perspective. It wasn't the same type of efficient offense you had with Hendon Hooker. There were lots of drives where Tennessee didn't do anything in that Clemson game. Remember, you're going to see it's going to be weird to watch because there's going to be a lot of drives where Tennessee doesn't score at all or doesn't do anything, and then there will be a few where they do what they need to do, and then you remember those few because it scores enough to win. But because here's the thing, Joe Milton, like you said, is going to miss on deep balls. Those are going to be drive killers, and he's going to miss on a lot more of those deep balls than Hendon Hooker did. And Hendon Hooker didn't hit on all of them. And so I will say this. It's funny. You brought up Anthony. You've brought up in the past, Anthony Richardson is that's the biggest thing for Joe Milton this year is Anthony Richardson's draft stock would help Milton. I think you're going to see Milton's draft stock will be much more of a product of Heupel's offense than it is him. And that's going to be the difference between him and Hooker. I think Hooker did things alone that actually helps his draft stock. I think Joe Milton, the offense itself will allow for him to score on just enough during the year where his draft stock will stay high. But I'm going to be honest, Tennessee's offense is going to be a lot less efficient this year per drive.
Fair, but they might be able to run the ball every bit as well. Now Darnell Wright's a big loss, but I think that this team is going to continue to develop in the running game. So efficient's kind of a funny word. I would lean more towards the thinking of that Tennessee's not going to be as explosive, and that's going to limit their efficiency underneath. Because I think you're going to see safeties walk up a little bit more than they used to. Now, it's up to Joe Milton and Josh Heupel to burn those guys off the line, and then things open up underneath as they did last year. But at the end of the day, I maybe think higher of Dylan Sampson than some that are out there in the community. And I can tell you that a lot of people in Tennessee's football team think very, very highly of Dylan Sampson. So is this some sort of situation in which he could be the every down back? That's saying an awful lot. But could he be more than just the scat back type of guy? Yes, I think so.